There's never a quiet week in Newcastle, is there? Now we're trying to buy into the football club. Welcome back to Black and White Banter. So anyone who might not know any Newcastle fans this week, maybe has been working loads on Cloud Cuckoo Land. The news that's just come out today is that the 1892 Pledge Trust, as it's known, has made a very ambitious attempt to get Newcastle fans to donate to a trust so we can buy a stake in the football club should we be sold by Mike Ashley, which obviously we are all hoping and praying happens sooner rather than later. So, just for clarification before we go any further with pros and cons and whatnot, I did see on a fan channel today a video, and I'm not going to name any names or slag anyone off because that's not my style at all. It was just for clarification. He was saying that the attempts to do this were ridiculous because we could never raise enough money to buy a football club. Now, just to clarify, this is not an attempt for us to raise money to buy the football club outright. That is £300 million. That is a lot of money that we will never be able between us to clump together to afford. This is just to buy a stake in the football club, which could be as small as 1%. So we get a seat at the board table and a say of some description in decisions made by the club. So just had to clarify that one. So my first gut reaction after doing a lot of reading of Q&As and the video for 1892 Pledge Trust and all the good things people have had to say about it today, I think it's a good idea. I think it's an ambitious idea. It's never been done before by a club in like the Premier League or a larger club, if you like. And we've been crying out for some sort of Newcastle fan to have a say on events in the football club for a very long time now. The last 14 years, are you really telling me that if we'd had a fan in the boardroom, there wouldn't have been some sort of kicking and screaming or throwing hot coffee over Mike Ashley's face when it was announced that Sports Director Arena was going to be the new name of the stadium? If we'd have had a supporter in that room, a stakeholder, there would have been hell to pay. There would have been kicking and screaming until that decision was rethought or discussed again. So we've needed a supporter present really on the board of the football club for a long time now. And yes, Mike Ashley would be gone if this was to go through. This would be with new owners, but who to say that new owners might not make terrible decisions again? And if we can have even the tiniest influence in that, let's go for it. Now, in terms of stake and whatnot, just to give you all a bit of background, you can donate as little as you want. It can be £1 per month, obviously £12 a year if that's all you can afford. They do advise on the website an £11 a month subscription, £26, a £41 a month, and they compare that to, well, that's only one cup game, £11 a month. That's all, £26 is only one home match day a month. We'll get onto that in a second. But yes, it can be set up monthly, and this is massively going to rely on monthly money coming in, not just a one-off payment, because let's face it, if Ashley gets the money he wants, which is 300 million, I think it's as it stands at the moment, for us to buy a 1% share as fans, that is £3 million for all of you who are bad at maths at school. 3 million is a lot of money for us to manage to raise together as a fan base. But what I will say for us Newcastle fans, there is not a more passionate group of fans to get behind something like this than us. The fans who've put up with this shit for 15 years under Mike Ashley. We sell out 52,000 stadiums in the Championship. We live and breathe our football club, and we are a one-club city. So I think we are probably the best fans to get on board with such a crazy idea in a lot of people's eyes. Now, pros with this, let's focus on the pros first. As I've already mentioned, getting a seat at the table would be fantastic. Just to voice something, that would be good. That's the first pro for me. Second pro, I think, would be just generally the revolutionary sort of side of this. Like, this has never been heard of. So if we would sort of break down certain barriers if this was to happen. Because how many clubs have you heard of that have a fan stake in the football club, especially within the sort of the Premier League? I think if you go a little bit lower to teams that have dropped down, the likes of Wickham and whatnot, they have a fan influence, but that's because the fans almost saved them as football clubs. So we've never had a fan shareholder just to be on the board, to have a say in the running of the football club. So that's another pro. I think the main pro, final pro for me, again, it just maybe sounds like I'm repeating myself, but something like this, it can't do any harm, can it? Let's face it. any Newcastle fan who thinks this sounds a ridiculous idea, yes, we'll touch on that in a second, maybe the more ambitious, difficult to reach side of things, but I don't think any Newcastle fan could sit and say us having 1% stake in our football club under new owners is a bad thing. It's not. It can't be. It just means that we get to sit at the table and discuss decisions and put our opinions across, and we'd all get a vote in these different decisions. So yeah, I'm all for it. Now, the negatives. I think something like this relies on monthly payments, not just a one-off. Yes, we might all be getting excited right now, and I think as of today, £20,000 when I last looked has already been paid by fans since this was released. That's crazy numbers. But everyone's going to get a bit excited with this, aren't they? Oh, I'll chuck in 15 quid, I'll chuck in 25 quid to get rid of that tosser. Actually, everyone's going to put some money in to start. How many Newcastle fans are going to be able to afford a decent payment per month? Because let's call a spade a spade. COVID has hit. People have lost jobs. We have food bills, kids' mouths to feed, mortgages, car payments, gas, electric. There's so many bills that we have to pay out, us working class Newcastle fans. And they advertise £11, £26, £41. These are big numbers for fans to get behind. Bearing in mind, and this is the thing for me, what the Pledge Trust has decided to say is that if this doesn't work in, say, a year's time and all these Newcastle fans have pumped the money in, that money will be given to charities. Now, it's fantastic for the charities. You know, all the different North East charities that could really do with that money, that's great. And we all get a warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that our money's gone somewhere good. But a lot of Newcastle fans, being realistic out there, will only look to invest £11, £26, whatnot, a month if they knew that if this fell through, they'd probably get that money back. That's not to say they're heartless and don't want to see charities strive in the current circumstances. But it's a lot of money to be chucking away for something that might never happen. And the statistics with stuff like this say that it maybe won't because it's so ambitious. So I think the fact that money wouldn't come back to you if you do decide to chuck plenty of it in is a bit of a difficult one for me. And yes, some of you might say, well, why can't the Alan Shearers and the rich fans out there just pump loads in? I think if you're Alan Shearer, yes, you're getting behind it, which he already has today, by the way. He's shared it on his Twitter. But if he pumps in £100,000, just as an example, is he going to be happy? I know he's rich, but is he going to be happy for that to go into thin air to a charity if it falls through? I don't know. I don't know Alan Shearer's wealth. I just think it's asking a lot. And yes, again, some of you might say, well, Matthew, you can pay £1 a month. That's fine. That's not going to break the bank for any of us. But if all of us Newcastle fans only pay £1, this is never going to get off the ground, and we are never going to raise £3 million to buy the football club. So it's a bit of a funny one, the payments and how we don't actually see that money back in our bank accounts ever again. I think that's probably going to mean that a lot of Newcastle fans, generally speaking, because a lot of us are just normal working class, might put very small amounts in, which again would have me question whether we'll ever reach that 3 million threshold to pay for the stake in the football club. So that's probably the main negative for me. Now, in terms of sort of thresholds and time, apparently this will be looked at. If we don't have a 10% increase after a year of what the number was, then it'll be reviewed and it'll go down to a vote whether the money's given to charities. So there's not a large time scale on this. And let's face it, if Ashley sells, God, please sell our football club soon. If Ashley sells very soon, then I think that this money would have to be invested in, you know, we'd be looking in a year's time that we would need to get these funds together to come at the new owners and say, right, we want a seat at that table. We want 1% at least. So, having said that though, with regards to owners, and I should have touched on this on the positives, if the Saudis did buy us, big if, because let's face it, the Saudis are still interested. I believe it, so maybe some of you Newcastle fans don't. I think the Saudis, based off their track record with Man City and whatnot, would be all for Newcastle fans being on the board. They've talked about investing in the city, the development of the club, the academy, everything. They would want a voice of the fans. So I think if we got the right owners, they would be all for us coming straight in if we could get the money together. So again, that was probably more on the positives. But overall, I'm for it. I love ambition. I think, you know, when I first saw it today, I was like, the balls on them bastards. us Newcastle fans buying a stake in the football club. So why not? Let's give it a go. If there's enough Newcastle fans out there willing to pay a substantial amount of money per month to get to that 3 million mark, and maybe Alan Shearer might chuck in a shitload, Anton Deck might chuck in a shitload, we'll ask Sting what he's up to, whether he's got some spare money down the back of the sofa, and let's go at it. And I think if we all chip in enough money that's not going to kill us if we never saw it again, that might be more than what I can sort of contemplate in my head, and there might be enough there to give this a go, and who knows where backing would come from financially for this. So yeah, why not? I love the ambition of 1892 Pledge Trust. If you haven't, please visit the website for them. I'll put it in the bio so for you to have a look. And please, as always, Newcastle fans, let me know in the comments whether you're getting behind this attempt to buy a stake in the football club, whether you think it's a ridiculous idea, and if you are doing it, whether you think it'll happen, whether you think we will get that opportunity. And please like and subscribe, Toon fans. If you haven't already, I've had lots of followers. They seem to be on the up now. You know, I'm in the 80 mark now. I'm a bit of a baller. 80 plus followers. Make sure you get us on Facebook and Instagram on the Black and White Banter as well. And I'll touch down with you for a Burnley match preview for another massive game at the weekend. Thanks for watching.